Right, today's guest is someone who used to I would think probably years ago, I probably wouldn't want to talk to because he would have triggered me, and it was all about alcohol and giving up alcohol and so forth. But today's guest is Marcus Jones from Marcus Jones Coaching, aka the alcohol-free guy. So, Marcus, welcome to the Coffee, Chaos and Confidence podcast. And I've got one question for you. Do you drink coffee?
Mate, I love coffee now. I don't do booze.
No, you don't do booze. Amazing. How do you have your coffee?
I normally go latte, 2 sugars. I'm trying to reduce that to 1 sugar because sugar's not good for me, right? But yeah, and I've bought, since giving up booze, I bought a sexy Nespresso machine
Oh,
that gives me
nice.
like amazing coffee.
Nice. Do you know what's funny? I realized this the other day when this is going to be episode 4 of this podcast, and I realized it's called Coffee, Chaos and Confidence. Every time I've had a coffee, I've never mentioned coffee, but coffee's always been
Love
there
that.
in spirit, right? So, and we're doing this on a Friday evening at like 5:30. Although it's now 6 o'clock now because we yapped a bit for the beforehand, and I thought I can't not have a coffee, and I'm like, going to be a late one for me tonight then.
That is dangerous. I was like, is he aware that it's 6 o'clock and he's having that coffee? I love
It's
it.
fine because the podcast goes live at normally about 6:30 on a Tuesday morning, so it'll be natural. It'll be natural. No one will know. Yes.
Amazing.
So,
Buzzing for that.
dude, we met properly a couple of years ago, and you know, I remember being at an event and us just chatting away for like what just felt like forever about alcohol and so forth. And yeah, I know you know a little bit about my kind of past with my dad growing up as an alcoholic and so forth. So I knew that we were going to have a really good conversation. So, dude, tell me, like, why the alcohol-free guy? Like, what's this all about? And like, how did this all come about?
I suppose, for me, do you want me to go back to the start? I suppose, like, where do you want me to start with this? With
Wherever you feel
me,
most comfortable, dude.
I suppose with me, like the big, I'm going to start in the middle and then go back further. The big, the
My
big,
kind of reading.
the big start was, I suppose, the biggest and the antagonist of this was my divorce, right? So my divorce happened in 2000, I think it was 2015, Pancake Day. And yes, I like lemon and sugar, but what basically that triggered a response of, obviously, an emotional response of, actually, I didn't want to deal with life, so I then started to booze. But boozing became like, my boozing became heavy. I moved back with my parents, but then at 31, I discovered cocaine as well, and with that was like, that was like another high that was, I mean, it was incredible. So that then triggered, every weekend, I mean, I didn't need an excuse. And I think this is interesting now because a lot of people are like, okay, cool, what's the occasion? And for us British, we'll drink on any occasion, and commiseration. But for me, an occasion would have been a Tuesday night if I'd have got if I'd have got an email from my solicitor about the divorce that I was going through, or if I'd have got, I don't know, Man United had just lost, I'd be like, "Oh, cool, I'll have a couple of beers watching United," or whatever. But since giving up the booze, over 4 years ago, I've obviously done a lot of work, inner work on myself. And looking back to 16, 17, 18-year-old me, the parts of that was, actually, I wanted to drink to get get absolutely wasted, A. B, I really wanted to drink to impress others and to impress on others. So that would be like, a lot of my friends, or my drinking buddies at the time, and still some my close friends now, even at the weekend talking about it, it would be like, okay, so Marcus is the joker. He'll tell jokes. He'll tell shit dad, uncle jokes. But then that became my identity. And even trying to get rid of that identity now, it's like, oh my God, I'm still funny. I think I'm still funny.
Mhm.
But like, that then became uh, that to some people that is still who I am. I used to go out every Christmas with old like secondary school mates, and then that became they were like literally the first interaction would be like, "Come on, Marcus, tell us your joke about the blue pens and as Argos." Like, you know, it's a rude joke and like it's quite funny, but I'm like, is there more to Marcus than them shit jokes? But yeah, wait, see again, I've gone completely way off track. But
No,
like,
I
I
love
suppose
it.
the alcohol free guy is because I have become alcohol free, and I suppose that's maybe my new identity. But I don't want it just to be my identity is about sobriety because I'm much more than that now. I'm a great coach, a great uncle, a good partner,
You're
like an
still funny as
amazing.
fuck as well, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly, and still funny as fuck, and I can still tell the Argos pen joke, but when you're pissed, them jokes are probably a lot funnier
Mhm.
than now, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, so that's a bit about where it's come from, and it's only I suppose the only part of me was it was only supposed to be a 3-month hiatus from booze to make myself look body beautiful for a holiday.
So when you say that, you said something then which is interesting. Like, what did it start with booze or and then go to the cocaine and did it just get to a point where you just what was that thing that you needed at that point when you started to need more?
Yeah, it was interesting. Good, great question. So, like for me, I hadn't touched an illegal drug because obviously we all know that alcohol is the most addictive drug out there and the most damaging. But the coke didn't start till I was 31, so I hadn't touched an illegal drug till I was 31
Wow.
when I was still with my ex-wife. Um, and like with that, again, like it was only just like a little bit, a little dabble in it. But then I started to mix around with, and it's not their fault. But I started mixing around with the people that did it on a regular. So like every Thursday or Friday would become that, and it's then highly addictive, right? Booze and drugs are highly addictive. But when like you're a couple pints deep, then there'd always be someone around being like, okay, cool, let's call the Albanians. And and do you know what? The funny thing is like, well, I don't even think it's funny, but you can get a you can get cocaine quicker than you can get pizza in around where I live.
Wow.
And it's probably not dissimilar to London. It's probably not dissimilar to a lot of places, but that's how readily available it is, which is, I suppose, scary, but also like at the time for me, it was great because it's so easily accessible.
Yeah, I'd be pissed off if the coke came before the pizza, to be fair, because I much
Yeah,
prefer the
yeah.
pizza.
Yeah, and after the Coke, I wouldn't be able to eat the pizza, so, you know.
Wow. Wow. It's it's crazy, isn't it, when you think about, like, that some of this stuff is so readily available, and I think something that, like, really, like, jumps out at me there, you just said like, it was so readily available, and I think, like, with alcohol, it is so readily available, isn't it? I mean, I remember when I was a kid, you're gonna, do you know what, Marcus? I'm thinking we're probably about the same age. I'm 43.
Yeah, so I'm 40 last year, yeah, so
S
we're around about the same.
So 2020, it was like kiwi and lime. It was
Yeah,
like white lightning. There was all this various different alka pops. I
hooch,
remember
yeah,
the Hoots, Smirnoff Ice, all of those WKD Blue, and all of this. It was
yeah,
like, when you look at that now and you look at that marketing now, I think it's amazing the way. And funny enough, I just had John Chapman on the podcast on the last episode, and we were talking about the way stuff gets marketed. And it's funny, isn't it, that like you look at now vapes and the way
mate,
they're getting
yeah,
marketed. You can literally see whatever's bad is getting marketed in the exact same way. And do you know what the crazy thing is? As business owners, like it's like we could actually probably learn quite a lot through our marketing and as entrepreneurs. It's like how can we push our businesses like this? Because they are the leading examples of what bloody works, right? But but
unbelievable.
but they're targeting people in such a unethical way, it for me, it's just like you say, it's so readily available. And the crazy part about it is cocaine doesn't have an advert, does it? Do you know what I mean?
No, and check this out, right? And this is so funny, and it's crazy that it's going down this route because I spoke to my business coach today, and I said some of the best marketers out there are drug dealers. The reason I say that, and this is not a saying isn't amazing, but every Friday we'd get a text saying I've got the best Colombian in or best whatever it be, and it's free for 10. Free for 10. No, if it was free for 10, free for 100. And you'd be
Yeah.
like, cool. So, that, as you said, we could learn from that. Like, are we messaging our clients or our potential clients saying, cool, at this, next week I've got 5 calls
Yeah,
free or
yeah,
I've
yeah,
got
yeah,
this time free. And
yeah.
it's quite interesting. And I 100% agree. We were driven by pretty with the hooch alka pops, pretty colors, um, taste, and they were quite, full of sugar, full of amazing stuff that made us buy. And the same,
Archers and lemonade just tasted like sweets. I know it was meant to be a
yeah,
girl's drink, but I liked it. I liked it.
yeah, 100%. And then the same comes to like you said, the vapes. They're candy bring. Or I don't know what they're all bright colors. They're
Yeah,
all
yeah,
named after like I don't know, candy floss air or what. I don't. I'm
yeah,
making these
yeah,
up, but
yeah, yeah.
But you're right, like, it's scary because then I know you've got a child, I think she's about what's she, 11, 12,
13. Yeah, yeah.
13. So it's them impression like, my my eldest nephew is proper impressionable, and I'm them trying to have that conversation with him. I'm like, again, you can't say these are bad or these are anything. You've just got to let them make that decision because I'm I can't throw stones because I've done it, you know?
Yeah, 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 exactly. When while we're on that then, do you this could be like Marcus has left the podcast. So you call yourself we talk about the alcohol-free guy, right? And I think, the way you work with people and I've, I've seen the way you've talked about how you work with people and the outcome people can get. Um, do you think alcohol-free drinks, do you think they're good for people who are stopping drinking?
I think you're gonna say something different, but I'm gonna go with yes, they are. The reason I say this, and it depends who you talk to and where you go. If you're going to AA, then they will 100% say no.
Mhm.
Um, the reason I think they're good, and I used to do you know what is interesting? Because I thought at the beginning they were amazing because they were a substitute. So effectively, you're keeping the ritual, but you're changing the ingredient, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Which is amazing. That's class
Mhm.
because you're not then waking up the next day for thinking, or in some stranger's bed, or thinking how much I spent, regrets in A&E, whatever it may be. Well,
Mhm.
I've been all of these scenarios, but I suppose for the the borderline functioning alcoholic, probably not, because it's more of a trigger of, like, the taste, the it might make them then be like, "Ah, yeah, I remember this taste and, this I'm not getting the same effect.
Yeah, yeah.
Shall I carry on doing the normal alcohol instead? Because 'cause
Yeah.
I'm not getting the same effect." So, I'm a bit on both like, sides of the coin. However, if I'm coaching someone who's more of a gray area drinker, 100% at the start of your journey, alcohol-free drinks are are almost not a lifesaver, that's completely wrong, but almost like a guided hand, in
Yeah,
my
yeah.
opinion.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny because, I'm very much of the same opinion like you've just said, and I think it depends on I think if I was to describe this from my own perspective of what I've seen, um, and that is that I think it depends on the problem. I genuinely do. I mean, I know people who, I haven't drunk for, and I'm also a bit of a believer, in you get to a certain point, actually just stop tracking. I couldn't tell you when I last had a drink. My wife thinks it's like 3 or 4 years ago, and we're not really sure. The only reason we're not really sure is because the cans of Strongbow that we bought for Christmas, the following Christmas, were still sat on the shelf, and we hadn't drunk them last Christmas, and we didn't drink them this Christmas, so we threw them in the bin.
Yeah.
So, and some people will say, "Well, don't worry, we did empty them and recycle the cans." But, um, but it is that moment for us that over the years, I've seen the effects that alcohol can have on a person. And I know we talked about this earlier. My dad had a liver transplant just over 10 years ago. And I've seen the more someone wants to drink, like you said, like it's that going up to the, oh, God, I'm gonna go to cocaine now, or I'm gonna, I'm not saying that's the way it goes, but I've seen it with mates of mine as a kid. I remember drinking cans of Fosters, and then, next thing you know, you're going up to someone else. And I remember about 10, 15 years ago, having my, it would be 15 years ago, so I was having my first photography studio. And one of my clients said, "Oh, Andy, do you want to come in for a quick beer? I'm going into the pub for a beer." And I was like, "Yeah, go on in." I didn't have any clients booked in, and I drank 5 pints of Amstel, which is like what, 6.5%. And I just got absolutely twatted. And I remember thinking like, "How did this happen?" And honestly, I can hand on heart say I've never had a problem with drinking. That was just, one of those moments where you've gone out with someone and had a few pints. My wife was quite cross with me as well because I'd I was meant to be driving home, and she had it up to drive home, and yeah. But anyway, um, when I look at the way, as a, younger years, I would never have drunk an Amstel or those kind of strength lagers. But the surroundings I was in, the other guy was, "Oh, I have one of these. They're much nicer, stronger," and they did. They tasted amazing. I remember that. Even that kind of like cold beer, cold ciders. It was always nice, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But the one thing I would say is like, for when it comes to like going down the alcohol free route, um, I think if you're someone like me who, probably that was probably the only time I probably got drunk that year, probably, it was like, but they would be, "Do you know what? Actually, yeah, I'm going to come for a pint, but yeah, I'll have an alcohol free." I think that's perfect. But when you've got someone who's like heavily addicted to it, and they're drinking strong lagers, they're doing shots, and, I mean, and again, I've actually fallen out of a family member of mine because I talked about my dad's story. Um, and I know my dad won't mind me saying this, but my dad never went to the pub and got pissed. My dad used to sit at home and drink.
Yeah.
And for the alcoholic, I feel like for him, it was like you say, it was like that anchor, it was that trigger of the thing. So I think they've definitely got two elements. But one thing I do have to say, and this is the biggest positive I think on it, like we were saying about all the other stuff, I think they're being marketed really well.
Yeah.
So I think more people are becoming socially acceptable to, because, excuse me, I know what it's like. I mean, I've this Christmas, I'm that teetotal now. I won't even have the trifle at Christmas with the sherry in, because for me I don't need it. Um, and my mother-in-law said to me, "Oh yeah, but it's Christmas. You can have one or two." It was my wife's works party. "Oh, you can have one or two." She said, "Yeah, it's Christmas. I don't
Yeah.
need
Yeah.
them. I don't need them." So I
No,
think,
no.
yeah, I mean, so it's like sometimes I feel like some of the alcohol-free stuff could actually be quite positive to go, "Do you know what? Yeah, I'm having a beer."
And I think that's it, isn't it? The representation, like I wrote about it in a recent post, but the representation of having something in your hand then kills the conversation around, "Oh, go on, just have a one," or "Go
Yeah.
on, w- one's not going to hurt you," or "Stop being," because this is our, I don't want to call it this, but this is, but I will. It's like, this is the toxic masculinity. "Oh, stop being a pussy, just have a," and that happened to me
Mm.
on, and I still, these things that really at the start of the journey, I was walking down the second hole of my golf course, and I took a non-alcoholic beer for me and a beer for my playing partner because, what a gentleman.
Yeah.
His comments were, "Oh, you're not still on this alcohol-free thing, are you?" "Oh, that will never last." And I'm like, if I and that was a friend who subsequently I haven't seen since I've give up boozing.
And do you know what's really, I think one thing you just said there as well is like you were on the golf course. The golf course has a 19th hole. It's
Yeah,
all about getting pissed at the end. Well, not necessarily getting pissed, but that's part of what they
yeah,
talk about. The 19th hole, the last hole is the pub or the bar.
yeah,
And it's mad how some of this stuff, you know, you can't go to a barbecue without having a beer, and you can't all these things that like, you know, when you say about toxic masculinity, I think a lot of it is it is one thing that I mean I don't particularly it's something like that. I'd be probably really quick to just go fuck off. But
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
mate, let's just go. Let's go to my stag do. My stag do. I was handed a dirty pint. So 18 years ago, this year, um, I was handed a dirty pint on my stag do, and the boys handed me this pint, and I looked at it. We were all dressed as we were all dressed. I was dressed as Mario. It
love it.
was all superheroes, and I wouldn't drink it, and they all got a bit shitty with me, and I just went like this in the pub and poured it on the floor. They were like, "Fuck's sake, Casey, that's cost us like 45 quid." I'm like, "Well, you're a dickhead then." And I said, "This stag do is not about this is me celebrating me getting married to my wife."
Yeah,
And actually, what's more important for me that following day was to get up with the boys, go for breakfast, and go for that early morning surf. And that was what the stag do was really about, was getting together with the boys. And I remember, my best man was dressed as Super Ted. There was Captain America, the Hulk, you name it, and they tried to pin me down to paint. I think it was the Hulk's face paint on me, and I wasn't having any of it because I wasn't actually that drunk. And I remember one of the lads said, like from the outside, it looked like a bit of a scuffle between Mario, the Hulk, Captain America. So it's quite comical. But to me, you know, that toxic masculinity of, "Oh, come on, Casey, stop being a pussy, it's your stag do." That was never for me, that was never something that it needed to be. It was more about going for a surf the following day and having that, you know, unhealthy breakfast, probably not good for my arteries. But, you know, that was what it was about. It was about the experience and stuff like that. And I think a lot of times with people, and you probably will say this as well, but alcohol actually makes you miss a lot of stuff. And a lot of those like, you know, memories that you can create. And, you know, I think I think there's I can't think what her name is. She's Beth something fitness on Instagram. She's wicked, but she's like, "Why are you sticking fucking poison in you?" And I'm like, "She's got a point. She's
yeah,
got a
yeah.
point, and that it is, you know, it is poison." How do you deal with that now? Then do you get that craving?
It you know, like the chin paradox, you know, there's that little chimp on your shoulder and like, but that rarely then flags up, and if that comes up, it'll only be probably one or two things: I'm tired or I'm bored, or I'm feeling low in energy.
Mhm,
Uh, uh, like, but it's quite you and I, as coaches, and obviously with personal development on ourselves, we've got so many tools now in my sobriety toolbox and your toolbox to know, like, feel our feelings, right? And to,
mhm.
oh, cool, this is just this, thou shalt pass, and all that. So the answer to your question is yes, I do still get cravings, but not but I don't act on them. That's probably the difference. But I suppose for me, and I'll say this quite a bit, the only thing that I will ever really crave or miss is like a red wine with steak, because I mean I love my food, but I think that's like, yeah, but you can get you didn't used to be able to, but like the alcohol-free stuff, you can get amazing alcohol-free red wines. They're like 16, 17 quid a bottle.
Wow.
I'm not tight, but
Wow.
they're still, yeah, yeah, exactly. But do you know what? Like, and I think you're right in saying, like, even with your Strongbow in the fridge, what happened there? I've had like not non-alcoholic beers in the fridge for like I think I've got like a Punk IPA, like alcohol free from Brewdog, that I got at like a run I did over 18 months ago,
Mhm.
because now I don't even do the alcohol-free stuff rarely myself
Yeah.
because I suppose I don't really go to a pub,
Mhm.
so, like, it doesn't really come up much. But yeah, cravings you still get, but I'm I don't act upon them. That's the difference, right?
Yeah, and do you find yourself, like you say about you don't go to the pub? My wife and I went to a gig at the O2 in Bristol last weekend, and probably about this time last week, we were sat in a pub, and we both went, "We haven't been in a pub for years." You know, and even as a musician, I haven't gigged in a pub for quite a while, but like honestly, it's like, it felt so weird, and do you know what? I looked around the room and I was like, it's the same characters that were in the other pubs that I saw 10 years ago, and that you could see the lads on the way home from work or the girls on the night out. You could see the old boy at the side of the bar, and it reminded me that I wrote a song when I must have been about 22, something like that, and the lyric was "Lonely old man, um, where have you been? Where are you from? Where's your family?" And it was about an old boy that I used to see in a pub when I was a kid, and he was always there, like a local farmer boy, and he was always at the end of the bar, and I used to always just think, like, "What's going on in your life that you're just sat there on your own every night at the bar?" And I just used to think it was really sad. Um,
Yeah.
and it's funny, like you say, the pub for me, you know, I think go in the pub. So you
No.
know what I mean?
So, like, interesting, like, my 5th anniversary with my partner tomorrow, and we're gonna do Taskmaster in London, and then we're going to do, like, we're going to eat some nice food, and, like, our like, how you define fun now is so different, but
Yeah,
I'd say I have more fun now because, like, A, I remember it, and B, like, I'm so grateful for that occasion, like, I've done, like, it's not around drinking now.
yeah.
My whole social side is not around drinking, so whether it be crazy challenges like I've set myself to, whether it be time with my nephews, my family, like, that they'd only remember me or up until, like, 4 or 5 years ago as, like, the pissed up uncle, and
What
that's
wasn't
the
there a
one.
thing about your I remember having the conversation with you over I've read something. Wasn't there a thing where
Yeah,
your nephew wrote drew you or something like that? Was that right?
yeah. That's one of the toughest things, and that still upsets me a bit because, yeah, you're right. It was a birthday or Christmas card, one or the other. And I actually found it the other day, and I've still got it, and it 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 reminds me of, like, oh yeah, cool. This day that was obviously, and this is what I'm definitely gonna go back to this, but this is what annoys me because I get a lot of messages per day saying, "I'll drink after my kids go to bed," or that my kids don't definitely know that I drink. It's definitely not affecting them. I'm telling you now, that is absolute bollocks, and whoever needs to hear that, they need to hear it because
Oh,
I
mate, that
don't live.
literally just gave me chills when you said that because
Yeah,
do you know what? My mum has always said to me, "Oh, yeah, your dad never really had a drinking problem when you were younger," and I don't ever remember my dad not drinking.
yeah, and that's the thing, right? You know, and what? Okay, so if your kids aren't affected, why is there a charity for kids of alcoholics? If your kids aren't affected by if your kids aren't affected by your drinking, like, and this is the thing, and maybe don't do it for, if you can't do it for yourself, do it for them because they do know, whether they're 2 years old, whether they're like s- I was that naive. I didn't think it was affecting anyone, let
Mhm.
alone me, because it was definitely affecting me. But I think the interesting thing is like, like I said, I get messages every day saying I drink after they've gone to bed, blah 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 blah. But I didn't live with my nephews. I just saw them quite regularly. But why are they drawing pictures of me with loads of beers saying this is drunk Marcus or whatever it said on there?
You were drunk or Marcus, weren't you?
Yeah, 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 exactly. And like, I remember one, like, I went to, like, a Go Ape, and I remember still being, like, high as anything, like, and I was like, that was supposed to be a day that we all, a family all went together, like, as you know, my mum, my dad, but, you know, and I was like, I was still off my nut, and I'm like, I did Go Ape that day, overcome my fears because I don't like heights, but I don't really remember it. And then, like, th th this is weird, and this is probably, I'm not gonna sound like the typical toxic man or the manly man, but I now take my nephews to do whatever I do. So I bought them, like, again, Monopoly experience for Christmas. So we're gonna do, like, the Monopoly experience in London. But I took them to Fort Park. I took them and I got them, like, special access, like, fast track everywhere the whole day. And I could sit here now and get emotional, but, like, for me, that was one of the best days of my life within the last 5, 10 years, because seeing their faces like that, and that makes me emotional because I'm like, I can do that now, and, like, even taking them to Wembley, and my oldest nephew just couldn't give a shit about football, but the fact he's there with me, experiencing his first big or a football game with me, that all that shit, every time I do something with my nephews now, it makes me tear up because, like, because of how they saw me before is like, now they see me as, like, you know, I'm not, it's not all me, 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 but my nephew started running now. Would he have started running if he didn't see his uncle in the marathon twice? I don't know, but, you know, he's that shit makes me light up now instead of, like, a cheeky pint and a line. You know, it choose, you can have this, like, and you know, like, I've seen you, you're amazing with your daughter, like, taking her to the beach, doing shit with her, and it just, that matters more than a 15-minute hit of dopamine or whatever you're doing. Sorry, I digressed there completely.
Mate, that's exactly why I don't think people should drink. I watched that little girl, Amelie, I believe her name is. I say Amelie because I thought it was Amelia, but it wasn't. It was, I think it was Amelie
Yeah.
on Good Morning Britain last
Yeah.
week, that week before last, with Callum Best, and they were going to Number 10 to hand over a letter, and this poor girl, her dad died from alcohol abuse. Now, um, he was younger than me, and she just said, I just thought my dad was normal. Like, if your kids think you're normal, great. But, like, be fucking normal. Like, don't treat your body the way, I've said goodbye to my dad probably in the last 20 years, thinking it's the last time I'm going to say goodbye to my dad, because I don't know if this is the time. He had a liver transplant, and when he got put on the liver transplant, his liver was smaller than a 50 pence piece.
Jesus.
He had, like, he was 2 weeks in intensive care in London. And in that same year, my daughter was going through, operations, surgery, because she had bilateral hip dysplasia. And, all I could think of was, at the time, was, right, I'm trying to be the best father I can, and I'm still having to look out for you because you're now having a liver transplant. Um, and whilst I know that people don't always just drink for fun, and I know that it can be triggered by trauma, by grief, by, you know, things that happen to people, and I understand that, and I totally, believe that there are many, many triggers for why people drink. And, when you said about why you were drinking, for me, I think, I totally get it, because, it's very easy. Like you said about the football, and it's like, well, the lads are drinking, Marcus is drinking, we're all having a drink, everyone's,
Yeah.
and that whole, that phrase of, if you're in a room full of millionaires, you'll become the 10th millionaire. Do you know what? If you're in a room full of pissheads, guess what? You'll become the 10th pisshead.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
And I think when I watched that little girl last week on Good Morning Britain, and it was I didn't even know I didn't even know I'm 43 years old, and I didn't know there was a charity. And that week was it National what was it? Children of Alcoholics Week. So it was
Yeah,
like
yeah,
yeah, Children of Alcoholics Week.
yeah,
I never even knew it existed, mate. I shared the
yeah,
post, I shared the story, I took a photo, and I just thought, "Do you know what? Like, I totally resonate with her story. I was lucky my dad got given a second chance.
yeah,
Um, but that little girl has lost her dad. That little girl's never gonna she will always remember her dad as the dad he was, and I'm sure he was an amazing dad. As she said, he was just normal to her. But kids see stuff. Kids
yeah,
see it, and the knock-on effect of that was, and this is what I absolutely love about what you're doing, is I shared that post that I did, and 4 or 5 people have since reached out to me in that week and went, "Me too.
yeah. It's crazy, isn't
Me
it?
too." Like, that was me growing up. My dad was a drinker, my mum was a drinker, and, we've been a bit of a badger on the dads here today, but, it happens to men, it happens to women, and it's one of those
Yeah,
things for me that, like you just said about like that moment for about going to Wembley Stadium,
yeah.
like, they will never forget that experience with you.
No, no, exactly. And I
And do you
suppose
know
for
what? Likewise, if you'd have gone to Wembley Stadium and got absolutely off your tits, guess what? They never would have fucking forgot it either.
no, 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 and that's the thing, isn't it? Like, they're however, whatever age they're at, they're impressionable, and it's almost like, excuse me, when I see them, it's almost like their eyes light up because they want to revel in whatever I'm doing, and but they also want me to get
Yeah.
engrossed in what they're doing, and and I wasn't getting engrossed in what they're doing because I was only, I, what drinking does is make you selfish because all I cared about was getting off my nut, or when can I get the next drink, or when can I, what can I do this weekend that revolves in me getting, and a lot of that, obviously, I've just been through a tricky divorce, so a lot of that was, um, escaping, numbing, all the things that booze does to you, um, and it's also like, it's weird because I've always thought, and this is since I was 18 or 16, 17, wherever, I've always thought that booze equals confidence. Yeah, and it's interesting. Obviously, y- you are the confidence king, but it doesn't, and it, maybe it does at the time, but like that confidence was like, I thought that women would, and it is a lot of that insecurity, but I thought women would pour over me because I'm telling amazing jokes. I'm showing I'm
You're the
confident.
funny guy.
Yeah, but that's self confidence. Now, or even still, like, putting myself out there to the internet, that self confidence is still quite low because I suppose there's a lot of maybe trauma going back of being like, I'm not as confident as, and maybe I seem on, and I think the same with you. If you look back 5 years ago, when I started Instagram, there's videos where I'm not looking at camera, I'm looking away,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm doing that. But now I'm like, I probably am, hopefully I'm much more engaging, and I can traverse and tell that my story a lot better.
Do you know what?
Whereas
I
before,
just had a weird flashback, and it's funny that I've never been an alcoholic, and I've never had an issue with alcohol, but I've been affected by it, right?
yeah,
Um, my wife and I went through some boxes in the loft the other day, and we were going through. I don't know, anyone listening is probably younger than us, probably thinking, "What the fuck is what's an instant camera?" But
yeah,
those
yeah, yeah,
throwaway cameras you used to get, we
yeah,
put them
yeah,
on the tables at our wedding,
yeah,
and there was a photo of our wedding cake, and our wedding cake, I'd seen it in Exeter 2 years before we got married, and I said to my other half, "This is the wedding cake." And I remember because I took a really cheeky photo of this wedding cake in this shop on my phone, which is probably, when you think 2007 is when I got married, it was probably like, you probably couldn't even work out what it was. But anyway, but the wedding cake was these tiers, and on the tiers were like were like parcels, and they were different gifts. But at the bottom was a drunk bride and a drunk groom. And we thought it was funny. And you used to get these, I don't know if they still do them now, like the wedding favors that are like a champagne bottle that you blow the bubbles in, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So the group I was holding one champagne bottle, and my wife Kate was holding the other champagne bottle. And I remember thinking, and we said this the other day, I was like, when we were almost promoting that it was like funny that we were drunk.
Yeah, yeah,
Do
yeah.
you know what I mean? And it was like, yeah, interesting times, right? So
Yeah,
if
very
you were
weird.
like, if you were someone who wanted to stop drinking and you got a problem, how do people identify they've got a problem?
I I mean, the fact that they're even asking you, "Have I got a problem?" is probably a sign that they've got a problem, right?
Yeah, 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 right.
There is like an audit, if anyone wants, I can send it to you afterwards as well. There's like an audit test you can do online, which you can say, um, it like questions, have I mean, I think there's like 10 or 12 questions. Have I ever been asked by a family member, a colleague, or a loved one, to reduce my alcohol intake? There's loads of different questions, and you rate them from 1 to 10, I believe, and then it gives you a score right at the end. But I suppose, um, the honest question, if we were, like, coaching someone, is, like, has it the main thing is it impacting my life?
Mhm,
Now, I get people, again, the more you drink, as you'll know, the more you drink, the more you become tolerant to it,
mhm,
so and it as us lads, wear it like a badge. I used to wear it as a badge of honor. Like, I I've had 5, 6 pints and I'm not pissed. Well,
yeah, yeah,
that's not a good thing, right? So I think the honest answer is you'll probably know, but the the question you need to ask yourself is it impacting my life? Is it impacting the people around me? And if you don't know that, then I think, like I said, I think if you've asked yourself that question, the chances are you'll probably know that
you
you've got a
already know,
problem.
right? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and there is, like I said, there is a test you can do online. Um, there's like a one, I don't know if you ever had counselling before, but that's what, like, when you go for like a pre-test, they'll go, how are you feeling on 1 to 10, scale of 1 to 10, like 0, 10 being suicidal, 0 being I'm okay most days, and then in the middle, it's like I'm feeling low 3 out of 4 days or whatever it
mhm.
may be. So there's a scale, but I suppose w w you I think, like, I knew in y the signs, right? Puffiness, like, Luke Harrison did a great thing on it today, but, like, I gained I'm irrecognizable from the person that I was,
Mhm.
because I'm like, what, 4 stone, 4.5 stone lighter. Like, if you've gained weight, if you're having more regular arguments with your missus, if your performance is low at work, or if you're
Your
generally
performance can be low in other places as well, right?
absolutely, and that's a good point, and, like, I'm not saying I'm blooming Ron Jeremy, right? But I've definitely been,
Mate,
like,
I was seeing you in tight shorts. Don't put yourself down.
Yeah, my sex life's improved. Like, I think it's like looking at everything as an overview, like, and I think if someone, I've had people, I suppose what my aim is that they don't get as low as I did. I told my mum, and again, this is really fucking, like, deep, but I told my mum I was I thought I was a burden to my mum and dad, and I sat on the bed next to my mum telling her I didn't wanna be here anymore. And that's, like, that's tough. I've lost friends, I've lost, like, close friends, not just due to my but I've lost close friends both ways, drinking and then stopping drinking. It's weird, isn't it? Like, I thought they were friends, but then maybe they're drinking
Do you
buddies.
know what? That's one thing I was gonna ask you, actually. I was gonna, like, and it was a bit of a double-ended question. no, we're not still talking about Ron Jeremy. It was a bit of a double-ended question, was to say, have you lost anyone through drinking? And it was more, have you lost any friendship groups? Because I think a lot of times when you don't follow the trend, don't follow, you like, you either have to stay with it and just be like, well, they're my mates through and through, or actually I'm gonna have to just take a step back and go, I'm not getting out on the weekend and getting absolutely off my face.
Yeah, and I have lost a lot of friends. I'd say friends in a loose term because I think that maybe they were just my drinking buddies and like
Mhm.
people who be in the kitchen with on a Friday night. But like, I wasn't okay with it, and that was the biggest struggle, and that was the right at the start that was the hardest. And
Mhm.
some days now I'm like, even the other day I had a real close friend who was 40th. Excuse me, she was 40 on um 2 days ago, I think. But I messaged her because we're taught, you and I are taught that being best part of someone else's day, and that's what you were the other week when
Mhm.
you asked me on. It
Oh,
is
thanks, man.
it's making that impact on others. So I just messaged her and reached out and said, "Look, happy 40th. Sorry our paths haven't gone exactly the same way." And I don't think I lost her due to not drinking, but it was, unfortunate that we'd gone different ways. But some people are okay with it, and she was amazing with it. She saying like, "Thanks so much for your message. I really appreciate it. We've had some amazing memories together." Like, she was a
Mm.
really close friend. But the whole circle, like, dissipated through one way or the other, and I find it hard because I've heard through the grapevine that someone's decision didn't he stopped or he stopped speaking to me based on the fact I won't go to a pub.
Mhm.
That's quite hurtful because I'm like, that identity, I'm more than that,
Yeah.
and that same person, there's a video out there of me and it's on my internet. That same person did a video of me in a kebab shop, like rolling around like this, and it's on there. And then the next morning, I'm like, "Oh, mate, thanks for getting me home," because he had to get me home
Mhm.
to my mum. And I was like, and his next words were, "Oh, you were a hero." And that video saying I'm a hero, and now I look at it and I'm like, "Fucking, how vulnerable was I?"
Mhm.
So yeah, I did lose people, but I think if I again, this is interesting because I don't think you lose real friends,
Mhm.
but the people I've gained around me in my network and the energy we've got around us, like yourself, these are good people wanting to do good things.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying they're not good people because they were, and they were there for me, and they definitely were there for me in the time I needed them the most. And we're taught to be grateful for what we've had instead of what, like, so I'm grateful for every single one of these people in my life because without that I wouldn't be here talking to you now, Eddie. Like, but I think for me, like, you have to get comfortable with maybe a few people, like, not being there, unfortunately. And
Yeah.
that's the truth. Like, if you want to improve yourself, as you mentioned it earlier, and I always use this analogy with my clients. If you're if you get if you go in the hairdressers long enough, you're gonna get your hair cut. So why the fuck are you hanging about in a pub? You're gonna like, give yourself a fighting chance, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I and I think again, definitely gone off topic, but again, I think,
I love it,
um,
mate. I love it.
yeah, yeah, I think, like, because we like, the pub means a lot to us English people, right? But, like, as we mentioned off like we've mentioned a couple of times, I could go to the same pubs in Cambridge, and I could probably guarantee, bear in mind I haven't been out in Cambridge for, at least 6 years. I can guarantee the same people are out there right now tonight
Yeah.
because yeah, and it's horrible and heartbreaking to see, but if nothing changes, right?
And it's funny because when you say that, I know I've got friends of mine who years and years ago be like, um, "Oh, yeah, I only have a pint when I play snooker. You play snooker every fucking night, mate."
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
right. Oh, okay, cool. So tell me a little bit more then. So, like, when you work with people now, helping them do what? What are you helping them do, dude?
Well, I suppose it's helping him over like create a life that doesn't involve getting fucked for. So creating an electric life, creating
Mate,
a
what?
lifestyle.
That's awesome. Helping
Yeah,
them create a life that doesn't involve getting fucked for.
it's creating a life that like they enjoy it and on their terms instead of like being, I suppose, being held up by the by this magic elixir that we keep thinking it is. And so I work with grey area drinkers, like men, mainly our age of 30 to 55-year-old men who are struggling. Uh, Basically, they're 99% of them are weekend offenders, so they'll do what I did at the weekend.
Mhm.
But they'll. I think a lot of people, again, I'm definitely going to go off track, but a lot of people are 40, they've hit where they want to be corporately, hit or what it like lifestyle, and there's a correlation between 40 to 45-year-old men. The biggest killer is suicide, right? So I think
I
for
had a
for
horrible, crazy statistic on that the other day with the Man Down charity, and it just made me realize, like, it's like if they said 500,000 men a year across the world committing suicide.
yeah, yeah.
What?
And you know, eh, yeah, like where I don't know, like, and there's also a heavy link between alcohol, drugs, and suicide as well. So when
And do you know what? I don't know about you. I'm fucking not okay with that.
no,
Because do you know what?
no,
Because those people who are committing suicide have got, like, they've got parents who love them
yeah,
or had parents who love them. They've got relatives, they've got friends, they've got family,
yeah,
and they have purpose, man. Like,
yeah,
and I love
yeah. I
that.
mean,
I love that you're
yeah.
able to work with these people.
So like since doing what I've been doing, I've got my mental health first aid certificate. You probably have as well. I'm part of this Men and Their Emotions, which is helps nearly 50,000 people on Facebook who are crying out every day for help because they're struggling with life. And I think that's the thing, you yeah, you don't have you don't have to struggle. There's people out there who want to help you, and I think there's B that like there's I'd rather listen to someone who I didn't know than go to their funeral or not people or their families, affected. But I also like I'm passionate about people not like I said, not getting the same place that I was because I know how I know how dark it was, and I know how dark it can get. But there, again, this may sound cheesy, but there's always light after dark, right? And
Hmm.
there's never a negative without positive, and both ways. But I also think that for the men I help, th- there's a trend about like it's a weird trend because they'll want help right at the start because maybe they've got to not rock bottom because there's not everyone gets to rock bottom, but they've had enough of their own bullshit, or they've been told this seems to be a regular occurrence. They've been told by their partner, wife, fiance, whatever it may be, they need to get a handle on this or they'll leave. And I think the key thing for me is not to get to that point. I'd rather help you before you got to that point because if you've got to that point, ah, dare I say 95% of the time it's gonna go the other way because you're like, I don't know how you not so much, but me, it was like red rag to a bull. If someone tells me not to drink,
Hmm.
I'm gonna be like, "Fuck it," or what I was, I'm like, "Fuck it, I will drink."
Yeah.
Whereas, like, and I think it's trying to get to men before that and be like, "Cool, there is a choice and there is a better way of living,
Mhm.
believe me." Like, and that's my basically my my methods relate to that as opposed to, like, telling them, "You're not" I'm not they're adults, right? and I'm not there to. I am there to hold their hand, but I'm not there to hold that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they can make these decisions, but it's getting them to understand what them decisions mean, and making them realize that it's not just them that they're affecting.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting because the men I have worked with and work with now, and the same with me maybe, there's normally something missing in their life. So for me, it was purpose, probably. Um, and like again, being the king of confidence is maybe that confidence, which it, we know that confidence comes from after doing that thing.
Mhm.
So, but confidence, you can curate confidence daily by doing in big shit, or doing stuff, like your journal. I guarantee if someone did your journal, and this is a plug for you, if someone did your journal and carried on doing that, you're going to create more confidence. And that's why, again, I'm a massive advocate of the journal, because I'll send the people out a journal slightly different to probably your one, and we all have slightly different ethoses and ways that we want our customers to go. Because God's honest truth, I only meant to give up for 3 months to get a decent body or whatever, but it got too good, in my opinion, to then I couldn't go. Like, I went 90 to 100 days, and I was like, this momentum started building, things started to happen, you know, people started to reach out. People like were proud of me, and that's a big thing. Like, if someone's telling you they're proud of you, like my parents have always, my parents have been amazing throughout all my life, and I think that's the thing. I didn't go through what you went through. My dad drunk every Friday night because that was like what they do. But like, other than that, they weren't big drinkers at home. So I don't know where it come from, but I didn't go through any trauma when
Mhm.
I was young. I didn't. The only trauma I suppose I probably again, I've fucking gone off track. But the only trauma I went through was probably like the lack of confidence with, and this comes up quite a bit, like lack of confidence with women. This is why now in I'm so in like grateful. I've got someone now, my partner right now, who believes in me, so like she believes in me more than I believe in myself. And like to find that person who like fucking break down walls for you, and like just be like, yeah, well, you're great at everything, so you keep going.
Do you know what, man?
And I think,
I'd probably challenge you on that. The reason she believes in you is because now you fucking believe in yourself.
yeah, yeah,
That's something that I have to say that I definitely, when my partner's been incredible, and a lot of our journey stems from me just being like, I don't know, this isn't what I want. And I remember her saying to me like, I thought you were going to ask me for a divorce. And I was like, no, I just like, she's my best mate, like
yeah,
I can't do it without her. And
yeah,
that's what I was like, I feel like I'm sinking. And I think that's, mate, what you've just said there is like, when you say like, she believes in you because you fucking believe in yourself, man. And that's what I think is
yeah,
amazing about where you are now, is that you're in a position now where you get to help people believe in themselves.
yeah. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? Like with like, especially with the podcast, that confidence piece, it's like th- that magic poison that it is a poison
Yeah,
that uh, no, 90% of the conversations I'll have is down to that. It helps me. It helps me. One thing that fucking booze doesn't is help.
yeah,
Where
yeah, yeah,
it doesn't get, and I think that's what we the wording that people need to get is like booze. You're not giving up anything, and then
no,
that's like one of the main things. Is like I was always believing of like I was giving up something, and to give up something, you're not, are you? You're gaining this, you're gaining everything.
I think you've talked about
Um,
this today, the experiences that you've gained, the memories that you've gained with your
yeah,
nephews.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. Dude, where and how is the best way for people to find out more about working with you, dude?
Yeah, so, like, I'd say just mainly get in touch with me on Instagram, Marcus Jones Coaching. There's links in there, but I'll send you all the info for the show notes.
Yeah, man, we'll put
Yeah,
the
yeah,
because that audit, like you said, sounds amazing, and I think it would be I think it's something that
100%.
even if you don't think you've got a problem with alcohol, like maybe if you just try it, because do you know what? It wouldn't be surprised me that like you say, if you play snooker every Friday night and you're like, oh, I only ever drink when I play snooker, and you suddenly get good at snooker, guess what? You might have an alcohol problem. And the knock-on effect of that is not just what it does to you. And as you've said, like it's the people around you.
Yeah.
And yeah. So Marcus Jones Coaching on Instagram.
Yes, mate.
You got a website as well?
I have, but off it's boost better. I can't remember off the top of my head.
We'll put it in the show notes. Do
I'll
you know
send
what?
it to you.
Do you know
I
what?
can't
It's like
remember.
when someone says
Yeah,
to me, "Can what's your?" You say to any guy, what's your what's the date of your wedding anniversary?" Like, I don't know, bloody like I'm terrible. I've got 4 pillars within my business, and I was asked on a coaching call one day by a mentor who said to me, "Oh, Andy, what are your pillars?" And I was like, "I don't know." I froze. My brain just gets completely blank. So cool, man. We'll put it all in the show notes. And
amazing.
yeah, mate, honestly, like just want to thank you, for coming on the podcast and sharing your story with me, but also thank you to all the people that you have from all the people that you help, because it's not just the person that's got the alcohol problem that you're helping, it's the person that gets to spend the time with the person with the problem in the future. And
Oh,
that's what
thank
I
you,
think
mate.
is so powerful, man. So yeah,
Yeah, I appreciate it.
so check
Yeah.
out Marcus Jones Coaching on Instagram. If you can't find him, DM me and I will send you the link. But mate, thank you so much. You are an absolute superstar. And that wraps up today's episode of the Coffee, Chaos and Confidence podcast with me, Coach Casey. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure you like and subscribe. It helps other listeners find the show. Also, go and check out the show notes to learn more about my incredible guests. Until next time, make sure you chase your dreams without limitations.